Welcome back, boys. Today we are going to finally start doing something related to Reika's mods. We have a lot of different books from which to choose where to start, and we are going to start with rotarycraft. This is a mod based around gears and axles, and the power is given by torque times speed. But, before we get started, we should probably secure an area around our base. That is to keep us safe from creatures that exist only to make our game less fun. Next, to make our base looks cooler and not get dirty, we shall replace the dirt with some nicer looking stone bricks. Finally, we make a small farm to sustain ourselves. And now it is time to fill this land with machines. The first machine we are going to try to run is an extractor. This is a machine which processes raw ores with a 4-step operation which will quintuple the yield when compared to a vanilla furnace, while also giving some extra byproducts that can only be obtained that way. This machine have some particular power requirements, so we are also going to need a power source. The most affordable one is probably steam engines. These will require water, so we should probably start with a pump, which we will power with the weakest, redstone-powered, generator. We start by placing down the redstone motor, which will start spinning as soon as we give it a redstone signal. Using a screwdriver, we rotate it towards the water, where we can place a pump. However, as you can see, the pump is not working. The power requirement is 1 kilowatt, which is exactly the power our motor produces, but we are not providing enough torque. To fix that, we shall add a 4:1 ratio gearbox, which will trade speed for force. However, that still doesn't work. The issue is that this gearbox is in speed mode. Once we turn it in torque mode, the pump starts filling up with water, which we can finally move with a liquid pipe. Now we can use that water to feed 4 steam engines. However, they don't run just on water, they also need some heat, so we fire them up. Literally. And, once they heat up enough, they will start spinning. Since we were not getting enough water, we have also upgraded our pump to use a steam engine. Going back to our 4-engine setup, we use some bevel gears and some shaft junctions to merge their power into a single output. This will sum the strength of the motors, thus summing the torque, while the speed will be kept the same. This will bring us to a total of 65 kilowatts with a torque of 128 Newton meter. While we have enough power, we still lack both torque and strength for using the extractor. Thus we add a 4:1 gearbox to reach the minimum torque required for stage 1 and 4 of the extracting process. However, when we place the extractor, we notice that we still haven't reached the required power. And that is because our stone gears are getting damaged. The more damage they take, the more power we lose. To fix that, we are going to need lubricant. And we should have not used stone gears without lubricant to begin with. Anyways, we quickly make a setup that will extract lubricant from canola seeds. And, using a lubricant hose, we move that all the way to our stone gearbox. While that will prevent the gears from getting further damaged, it will not repair them. So we add some new gears. Now that we have recovered the lost power, we can finally start testing out our extractor. We managed to completely pulverize our first ore, but we now lack the speed for the second processing stage. So we swap our torque gearbox with a 16:1 speed gearbox. And we should have switched gear to speed mode before connecting it to the system. We do that again, this time with speed mode, and we can see that we are now doing the second stage of the ore processing. Then we do the third stage in parallel, all at full speed mode. Until we finally get stuck on the fourth stage, which requires us to change gears back to torque mode. And, after a long and slow processing, we managed to extract 9 flakes out of a single ore. Using a smeltery, we can turn these into more than 49 ingots. Now, this looks nicely, but we can't stay here and change gears every time manually with a pickaxe, so we shall slightly edit this system to be more automated. To have an automatic gear shift system, we first need a multi-directional clutch, which can change the output side based on redstone power level. Once we correctly set up everything, we can have a system where, by toggling a lever, we chose between low speed high torque or high speed low torque. However, we do not want to stand there toggling a lever, so we use a sequencer. And here we can see our timed automatic gear shift in action. Finally, we add some more gears and set the timer in a funny way to see how the mechanism works. Now that our ore facility is slowly working on its own, we should probably do something for the lubricant production before we run out of canola seeds. To do so, we are going to apply a fan to our farm. Once we turn it on, it will blow so hard that it will get the seeds out of the plants. And look how nice of a job it is doing. But that will only push all the seeds as dropped items on the ground. We could collect these with a hopper, but an item vacuum will do a better job. Finally, we use thermal expansions tubes to move the items. Now that we have fully automated lubricant, we can look at what we can do next, possibly a better power source to speed up our extractor. We could make a gasoline engine, but that's just as much power as our 4 steam engines. An AC redstone engine seems to require manual maintenance, so let's skip that one too. The performance engine makes as much power as 16 steam engines, but it requires fuels. And it still can't power the extractor without gear shifting. So, an interesting choice is a water mill, which makes a lot of torque but at low speed. And it only eats lubricant, which we have automated in a renewable way. The only issue is that, to be crafted, we need a metal that requires us to bring the blast furnace at 1000 degrees. Lava can only bring us to 600 degrees, so let's try going above that with a friction heater. And by hooking it up to 4 steam engines, it seems that we won't reach 800 degrees, which is not even enough for a material required by the performance engine. By looking at the wiki, we can see the formula for the temperature, which is logarithmic, and that we should try to balance speed and torque. However, even if we balance the torque and speed of 4 steam engines, we still can't reach even 800 degrees. If we added 4 more engines, we could get really close to the heat required for making the performance engines. A 9th one should make it. So, we add 1 more engine and look for a place where we can take the power of 4 others. And, exactly when we finished the setup, something went wrong. It looks like shaft junctions can't merge the power of more than 4 generators until we gain access to bedrockium. So we need another solution, and I think that, for this job, AC engines are perfect. And, by the way, we can use some of the leftover parts to power a furnace. Now we can smelt items faster and for free. We quickly swap the steam engines with AC motor, but, other than giving them alternated redstone signal, we also need a magnetized shaft, which we make in a magnetizer. Once we get one of these in our inventory, we can see that the motors start spinning as soon as we get close to them. And, once we drop in the shafts, we can finally get enough heat to even melt down spring steel. Now we can craft the hydro-kinetic engine, but we can't run it at full power due to its massive torque. To do that, we would need diamond gears, but these require more heat that we can reach at the moment. And, even if we used a well-balanced 4 performance engine setup, we would still only reach 1230 degrees, which is still not enough. So, our next option is to make a micro-turbine that burns jet fuel and works at 131,000 revolutions per minute. Such speed can't be managed with steel gears, but we can make the tungsten alloy ones that can handle it. But, there is still something we can't make for the micro-turbine: inductive ingots. For these, we need a pulse jet furnace. Since that machine too requires high speed, we start off by making some tungsten alloy ingots for the new gearboxes. Once we finish off the new gears and furnace, we realize that speed is not enough to run this machine. We also need jet fuel. To get jet fuel we have to start all the way back from finding oil, which spawns in the deserts. We set up a pump and fill a bunch of tanks so that we can bring it back home. We dry some of it to obtain tar sand. And we refine the rest to produce some fuel, which we use to power a combustion engine so that we can refine even more. Once we have a decent amount, we bring it to a fuel enchanter, where, with the help of some expensive materials, we can finally obtain jet fuel. Now that our jet furnace is ready, we can redirect the power from our blast furnace to the jet one. This furnace can smelt even steel armors, but we are going to use it for inductive ingots. Now that we have these, we can redirect the power to the blast furnace, where we use these new ingots to make the missing part of the micro-turbine, a high-temperature combustor. We finish our turbine, take half of the jet fuel we made and power it on. And it turns out that the turbine needs some time at high fuel consumption to speed up. With half of the fuel we made so far, we barely made it reach 1/10 of its power. We should probably automate the production of fuel ingredients, but we are trying to make this just a temporary setup, so we gather some more ingredients and do one more batch of jet fuel. This time we made 2 buckets, we give all of that to the turbine and wait for it to speed up. And, once we managed to reach the working speed, we realize one was not enough for the temperature required for diamond gears. To fix that, we would need a second turbine, but we also run out of fuel, so let's try something else. We shall try a hydro-kinetic engine. This machine will produce power at low speed but super high torque when water flows on it. When the waterfall is just 4 meters high, the power is really low, but, if we make a high water dam, we can see that we can archive a torque so high that even tungsten gears can't handle it, and that's why we needed the diamond ones. Now, we could try to find a waterfall height that produces a manageable power and a complex gear setup, but I'd rather climb on a flying island to get some magical slime 3 saplings. Once we get our loot, we can head back home, where we can start working on a fresh batch of jet fuel and a second micro-turbine. Once we have stocked up enough fuel, we bring it to the turbines and turn them on. And we managed to reach the working speed almost when out of fuel. Luckily they consume little amounts once they reach top speed. Since it took us so much to power this furnace, we shall make enough diamond gears for the rest of the playthrough. I mean, let's just make as many as we can before we run out of fuel. And I think we managed to make more than enough. Hopefully we won't have to go find any more fuel materials. Or maybe the fuel materials will find us. I think they looked for us not to be turned into jet fuel but to take revenge. Moving on. We should probably turn on the hydro dam, but it looks like someone drank all of the water. And that's probably how the king slime got so big. Okay, we should not jump to conclusions. It was just too cold and the water froze. Now you can see how much power and strength this water will make. But, fear not, diamond gears can manage that. And now the output is more manageable. But we don't have space. So I think it is time to redo our whole base with this new power source. Once we have done a nice cleaning, we shall start working on something inside the mountain. And that is a lubricant farm, since that's the only thing the water mill consume. However, it looks like working with such high powers on a single centrifuge is not efficient, and we could be using up more lubricant than we are producing. So, we shall step back and do a different kind of setup that also puts to good use the old stuff we salvaged. And there we have it, 5 centrifuges and 5 grinders powered by the old steam engines. Now that we have a lot of lubricant, we can go back and focus on our main power network. We shall bring the torque down to 256 Newton meters at a higher speed, 8,000 revolutions per minute. Such power configuration can even be managed by stone shafts. But, before getting to work, we shall close off the dam. Instead of using a clutch, we are going to remove the water from the mills, that way we stock up lubricant too. Instead of splitting off the power to machines we don't need, we are going to use multi-directional clutches to choose which machine shall receive the full power of the hydro dam. And now it is time to do a run test. For the moment, we can choose between directing the power into heating a blast furnace or a vanilla furnace. And, as you can see, only one at a time will get the power. Next we add all of the other machines, and we even have a jet furnace which runs at 2 million RPM. And, when we shut down everything, the stone cables will redirect the kinetic energy to our extractor, which still can't run all the 4 stages at once. And I think that's enough for today. In the next episode, we could try to see if we find a way of making so much power to break even the bedrock. Bye bye.